All right, everybody, welcome to this week's Corn Belt Umpires Zoom Lunch Clinic. We're going to discuss working with new umpires, so talking about some stuff for some more experienced umpires to consider when they're working with less experienced umpires, and some stuff for less experienced umpires to consider when they're working with more experienced umpires. Before that, I do want to kind of echo and further discuss a couple things that were sent out a couple weeks ago. Make sure coaches are wearing batting helmets. Make sure we're keeping players in dugouts. Enforce the safety rules. I watched a tournament that was being played under OBR, and I think I saw maybe two teams that had coaches with helmets. So we need to make sure that we're enforcing those rules. Moving on. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Connor will take care of them. Otherwise, if you got future topic ideas, shoot us an email. Our emails are below. Otherwise, let us know. We like talking about stuff you all want to hear, and so that's how we can make these clinics better. So first, let's talk about who's a rookie. As we talked about in Connor's presentation 2 weeks ago, a rookie is an umpire with less than 3 years of experience, and that can be in general or at a specific level. For me personally, like I didn't feel really comfortable working in the GPAC until after my third year. And so it doesn't matter if it's the college level, doesn't matter if it's a high school level. 3 years of consistent work at a level generally moves you up from rookie status, I guess. And it's not a bad thing to be a rookie. You're just new to the level, and it's if you're a rookie because you're moving up, that's awesome. You know, we want to move up, and so it's not always a bad thing to be the quote unquote rookie. Protecting the rookie. Why should we do that? Well, for starters, we're getting older. I got 15 years in already, and I turn 26 next month. At some point in time, someone else has protected us. Whether that just be, they gave us a few pointers in the parking lot after the game, or they intercepted a coach coming out to take care of something. They did something to protect you, me, when they were a new umpire. And then just the concept of there's 3 teams out there. There's the home team, the visiting team, and the umpire and crew. We want to protect our partner at the end of the day, and we want to protect our crew. And so, if we don't protect new umpires, we're not going to have new umpires that want to work, and then we're going to have a really tough time to get all the games covered. So
we're already at that point.
Oh yeah, we certainly are. So talking about identifying a rookie, Connor's topic just more involved. Your topic was working with. No, what was your topic specifically again?
Protecting rookies.
Protecting. Okay. So when we talked about protecting rookies, we talked mostly from like a handling situation standpoint. This is more geared towards actually on the field working with them. One thing we need to figure out if we're working with a rookie. If I'm working for an assigner, and they say, "Hey, you're working with so and so," and I don't know who that person is, I'm gonna say first off, how many years of experience do they have umpiring? Are they new? Because I need to know that. And I'll also ask her in the pregame too. It's a great way to kind of start off a pregame, and it's a good thing to talk about because you can figure out what nerves are there. If there's any pregame anxiety, and just what their background in baseball is like. if they say, oh yeah, I played college baseball and um, I coached for a while. Okay, cool. Now I know that at least they have some idea of what's going on, and we might have some mechanical things that we need to work on, but at least they have a general understanding of the game. And so it's really important that we know, because then we can talk about a more specific, we can tailor our discussion during the pregame. I had a professor in my undergrad always tell me that there was a correlation between anxiety and information. So that's why I want to know, how many games have you worked? Have you had any bad experiences? Can we quick talk through those? What's going on in your world? Everybody's got day jobs. Most people have families. What's going on in life? Something that we talked about in our pregame general video that we did earlier this year. In a situation where we are giving feedback, I'm going to ask about what someone's learning style is. Before I dove into baseball, I personally made a run at working junior hockey and collegiate hockey. At that level, you do a game, you're done, you sit in the locker room dressed until the supervisor comes in, and then you pull out a notepad and they just hit you with 15, 20 things that you screwed up. For me, that works great. If I'm working with Connor, one of the guys who's really helpful to me getting going was Matt Sisk. I'd come down between innings and they'd have 3 or 4 things for me. Well, I can keep that all straight in my head, and both Connor and Matt know that, and so they can give that to me, and they know that I'm not going to be overwhelmed. Some people can only handle 1 or 2 things at a time, and that's totally fine. That's just their learning style, and that's how they process things. So we want to make sure that they know, or that we know, what their learning style is, so we don't overwhelm them, because there's nothing worse than coming down between innings and you think you did really, really well on a bunch of things, and all of a sudden you get smoked with 5 things that you need to work on. At some point in time, you can give too much information, and too much information is just going to overwhelm them. And if you overwhelm them, that's when mistakes start building, and it just doesn't end well. On the pregame, I like to hit the big stuff. Who's got fair foul, outfield coverage, when I'm going to be at third, when I expect my partner to be at third, so on and so forth. We don't need to have some super in-depth pregame where we're talking about, spectator interference or interference by a non-game participant, stuff like that. We want to hit the big stuff. Any questions so far about pregame tips or anything that we've kind of talked to up until now? Hearing none. On the field, if you're new, focus on the big stuff. And I say that in general, like if you've been working for a while and you're moving up to the next level, like if you're moving from the high school level to the college level, this is a little simplistic, because you're expected from day one to be able to go and get everything at the college level. But in general, like if you're just new to umpiring in general, focus on the big stuff. Ball strike, fair foul, safe and out. That's the big stuff. I will tell new umpires that I work with, I want you to focus, if they're on the bases, I want you to focus on fair foul and safe and out. And just being in the right spot. baseball is a complicated game, and it's very easy to overwhelm somebody. And so if we could just keep them focused on the basics, especially if you're working with someone who's really experienced, um, it's a very easy thing to do, and they can just focus on those things. Because at the end of the day, umpires have concurrent jurisdiction over all but one thing. And if you're watching this, I won't give that test answer away. So if we can keep it as simple as possible for new umpires, we want to do that. I can come grab an obstruction at first base on a batter runner rounding first base, going to second, really easy, and maybe the person I'm working with who's new doesn't quite understand that, oh, that is obstruction. We're still able to enforce the rule book and call the game the way we're supposed to. If anybody knows me, one of my favorite TV shows is SWAT. One of their adages is stay liquid and fill the gaps. That's what we as experienced umpires have to do when we work with new umpires. When I work with new umpires, if I'm on the plate, I expect to be the one to call forced play slide. I expect to call most of the blocks. I expect to call most obstructions, interferences. I'm going to go get that stuff. And I know that going in. If my partner goes and gets it, that's awesome. But I'm not going to expect a brand new umpire to understand the finer points of the forced play slide rule, understand the finer points of the block rule, obstruction, and so forth. So experienced umpires, we can't just simply rely on our partner who's new to umpire as if they've umpired for years and have seen a lot of baseball. So stay liquid, fill the gaps. You don't have to get together after each half inning. And I don't know if it's a pet peeve of mine or what, but if I'm in the zone and I'm locked in, I don't want to talk. I want to just keep going and just stay in my world. The higher the level, Jason, did you have a question?
No, go on, then I'll say what I was going to say. Keep going.
Okay. The higher the level that you go, the more, and I don't know if I'm going to say that it's frowned upon, but it's not encouraged to get together unless we absolutely have to. When I'm working a college game, we'll get done with the national anthem. I'll tell my partner, hey, I'll see you in 7 innings or I'll see you in 9 innings. And then I'm going to head down the baseline or I'm going to hit the dish and they're going to leave. I don't ever plan on getting together during a college game. But you can get together if we have warnings that are issued. That's definitely something that's notable that we want to communicate to our partner. And so we need to get together in that situation. But I really don't like seeing umpires that every half inning they get together. It doesn't look professional. It slows the game down. Once, twice, maybe 3 times a game, cool, whatever. But we don't need 14 times. Yeah, we don't need that. Jason, what were you gonna say?
You touched on it. I was just going to say from a game flow standpoint, you're slowing the game down. We want to keep the game moving. That's a way to do it is don't be getting together, because when you get together, that tends to make that half inning last longer.
It sure does. And as I always like to say, umpires are not paid hourly. Any questions on this stuff? Connor, any comments?
Nope. Depending on how the game's going, I may go down more often than not, but
Mhm.
just depends.
Short. So to kind of follow along the lines of getting together, shorter is better. So I'm not going to sit in explain the finer points of force play slide rule in a half inning break. It's not possible. Last night I was working with a newer umpire who is newer to the area and had a lot of had some history of umpiring before, who had some really solid mechanics, but he needed a lot of polishing work. And so that's what we really focused on. And so like my first inning comment to him was something about just it's like something about the way that he called time or something like that. Then the third inning we got together and it was about drop third strikes and foul tips and just being really crisp on the signals and how we communicate those. And then there was one other thing, but they were all short, sweet. We never slowed the game down because I just came down and just said, hey, when you have a drop third strike, just put your left arm out. We don't do the safe sign anymore because that's going to create confusion if we have a potential tag play. Use the single arm out and then go to the save if we have an attempted tag play. Makes sense? Cool. All right. And I just did that in what, less than 10 seconds. So know what you can explain and do explain what you can explain as quickly as possible. Know what is achievable to explain and for the person you're explaining it to grasp. You know, I had a potential block situation this past weekend where we had a runner on second. Runner on second broke to third. Pitcher threw over to third base, and my partner thankfully did not block it. But we got together between innings, a couple innings later, and we talked about why that wasn't a block. And it's simple. It's for the purpose of making a play. So keep stuff short, keep it simple, leave the complicated stuff for the parking lot. Or bars and cars, depending on if you travel together or whatnot. If you cannot forget about someone's learning style. If I'm working with someone who can't really handle too much, I'm going to find the big three. And if I come down, I'm just, if I'm really focused on their timing, I'm just going to say, hey, remember, slow down. Here's how I do it. And the next 2 or 3 innings later, I'll come back down. Hey, remember, slow down. Gotta slow down. We can't be too quick on our balls and strikes. We can't be too quick on our safes and outs. And I might sound like a broken record, but I'm not confusing them. And I'm just keeping that reminder in their head that, oh yeah, this is what I got to do. And so Mark's got a rule. He likes to keep it to 3. I partially disagree because I come from the hockey world where I can just hit people with a fire hose with feedback, but that's because it's post game and you got a notepad in your hand. But just know the person that you're working with and ask them if it's too much. You can always ask and make sure that they're comfortable, that they can, or they know, and that they're comfortable to say, yeah, hey, I got it. I'm at my max right now. Let's talk later. This 4th bullet point, if there's anything to take away from this slide, it's this 4th bullet point. I hate umpires who give feedback to give feedback. It's the umpire of, I'm coming down the line or up the line to tell you how much I know. And there's no real purpose for that feedback. Good example of this, hypothetically, would be a base umpire who has a goofy pivot coming into the infield. Did they get into the infield? Yes. Did they get where they needed to be? Yes. Was it maybe not the most pretty thing? Yes. Is it something that needs to be addressed absolutely right then and there on the field? Probably not. That's feedback to just give feedback. There's nothing. There's nothing that is explicitly constructive about it right away, because I'll be the first to admit my footwork probably isn't the greatest. I know that I come in and I button hook the right way, but I might not have the greatest footwork. But I've never had an evaluation where my footwork has been noted. I've never had an evaluation, even with a partner or a supervisor, where we even talk about it. So, I mean, that's just giving feedback to give feedback. I'm far more concerned about like something constructive. If we're going to talk about the base umpire in the A position, are they too deep? 7 to 12 feet behind the bag. Are they 15, 20 feet behind the bag, where they're now getting into a position where it's tough to react to a play and get into a proper position for that first play and a potential subsequent play, or if we need to bust into the infield working area? That's constructive. And give praise when it's warranted. If they do a good job on a call where they use, good timing, proper use of eyes, good communication, let them know. If you were present last summer when we had Jeff Henricks on, he talked about the compliment sandwich. Good, bad, good, or good, room for growth, good. So don't be all negative. It doesn't help anybody. And frankly, you could just end up discouraging someone from umpiring. Connor?
There are two things that are important to think about when getting together between innings. Number one, know your partner. Their skill level, their desire to improve, what they can handle. And two, it's the game that you're in the current moment. I really disagree with Jake talking about your positioning in 99% of games working with newer umpires in between innings. I'm not going to cover that with anybody that's not been working for at least like 5 years during the game, because I don't want them to think about where they're standing. If it's not going to make them get calls right in the game that you're currently in, I'm not going to mention it. If it's not a rule issue, I'm not going to mention it. Like, these things have to be so massive that they affect the game. And being too deep in C or too deep in A, those things we can save for after the game. Write them down. You're working with a newer umpire. Take a note card with you and a pen. Write stuff down. Hand it to them after the game. You can go through it together. But if it doesn't affect the game that you're in, then don't worry about it. Now, if your game is 19-2 in the second inning, okay, then we can work on some of that stuff, because that's what we need to work on. But if it's anything other than close to a run rule, don't worry about that stuff. Get that later. That's a 10-minute conversation after the game as you're packing your bag and getting dressed.
The one other thing too that I will say about getting together between innings, there is a time and there's an appropriate time to do it. Last night we had a mess with a balk call. And I'm getting reamed out by the crowd, and coach wasn't happy about it, but he understood, and he was just going back to the dugout, and I was hearing some stuff from the dugout, nothing that warranted attention. My partner wanted to sit around home plate with me and talk about it, and I'm just saying, dude, go to the outfield, please. Go to the outfield. After a big call, I'm not going to say it's the worst thing that you can do, but when you have a big call or something like that, it's probably not best to get together right away, because there is a perception that is shown that you may not be confident in that call. Do I know for a fact that I got that call right? Yeah, I do. Was it ugly? Yeah, it was. It was not pretty, but we got the call right. And whatever grief that we're going to catch, I'll wear it. I had no problem with that. But I'm going to be confident in the fact that I got the call right. And getting together and still talking about it after the fact does not display outwardly confidence, at least in my opinion. So pick your spots when to get together. Any questions, comments?
If you mess something up, wait at least a half inning to go back down and talk about it.
Yep. All right, last slide. We already talked about the feedback sandwich. Reinforce the big three or whatever you were talking about on the field. If you enjoyed working with them, figure out another time to go work with them. There's certain people that I absolutely love working with, and I want to work with them as much as possible. And that's because they're either really good umpires, or they have this burning desire to get really, really good at this. And those are two types of umpires that I very much enjoy working with. One thing I didn't add, if you've been umpiring long enough, and you think that this umpire did a really good job, a phone call to your assigner is very helpful. In the Corn Belt Association, we have close to 90 umpires, I think, by my last count. I can't work with 90 different partners. I can't work with every person in the association. There's an umpire from the Sioux Falls area who went to pro school several years ago, and I finally got to work with him for the first time in 7 years a couple weeks ago. We don't have this luxury where we can work with everybody. And so we need to have feedback from experienced umpires. If you think someone did a really, really good job, we want to know about that. If someone needs help and they need more mentorship, we got to know about that too. That's how we go about developing umpires. That's how we preserve the art of umpiring for future generations, because we just don't know. I don't have the luxury to be out at the field every night to watch new umpires. I try to work with as many new umpires as I can, but my schedule doesn't always allow for it. So communication and helping us out by just saying, hey, I worked with Jason. Yeah, he was solid, good ball strike guy. Would definitely love to work with him again at some point in time in the future. Cool. So now what you've done is you've gone and said, hey, this guy's good. Or, he does a good job. That helps us know when it comes time for either playoffs or just, oh hey, we got a rivalry game here. We want to make sure that we have qualified people working on it. We know that he's qualified. So communication with coordinators is greatly appreciated. Connor, you got anything else?
Not off the top of my head, unless somebody wants to umpire Yankton Friday or Sunday.
Any questions from participants? Hearing none, I will stop the recording.